Nothing could have prepared viewers for the chaos that erupted when reports of a shocking incident between Sierra and Yandy began to spread. Despite the fact that reality TV is notoriously unpredictable, it is true that cameras were recording. When the altercation got out of control, and there are rumors going around the internet about a brawl that was so violent that it shocked everyone, according to these sources. What started off as a heated argument turned into a spectacular confrontation, where Sierra allegedly yanked Yandy by her wig in front of the startled castmates, even though it's the kind of explosive moment that seems like it belongs in a movie. Insiders insist that this kind of drama is exactly what simmers behind the scenes. There are allegations that Mendeecees got trapped in the middle, which would have added fuel to an already raging fire, further complicating the situation. Supporters now want to know how things ended out this way. Was this all staged for the cameras? Or did years of stress suddenly blow up in the most disgusting way imaginable? Tonight, we analyze every facet of this alleged brawl. From the shocking reactions on social media to the behind-the-scenes whispers, the evening had started like any other filming session, with the group gathering for what the producers indicated would be a standard sit-down to settle some unresolved concerns. Everyone knew that shady whispers and unresolved frustrations had soured Sierra and Yandy's friendship for months, but no one could have predicted that this night would become one of the bloodiest moments in the event's history. According to insiders, the atmosphere altered the moment Yandy walked in. It was immediately apparent to everyone that she wasn't here to play games because of her calm, collected manner. As she greeted the group, Sierra, who already sounded irritated, talked rapidly and with clear attitude. At first, it appeared subtle. Small jabs, a raised eyebrow, and a sarcastic laugh. But while the cameras filmed, things heated up faster than anyone could have predicted. In a comment about loyalty, Yandy hinted that some people only pretended to be friends when it was convenient for them. Girl, don't even start with me, because if we're talking about fake loyalty, should be the one explaining yourself. Sierra shot out in a sharp voice. Cast members started to shuffle nervously as tension in the room rose as the two women's eyes locked out. The fact that this extended beyond insignificant comments and surface-level hostility was not well known. Behind the scenes, there were rumors of failed trust, potentially inappropriate conversations, and Mendeecees. Others said Sierra had come too close to him on certain instances, while others insisted it was all innocent. But Yandy had clearly heard enough to let her guard down, and her every comment about Sierra was colored with suspicion as the argument heated up. Voices rose and blended with the gasps of others. "You always act like you above everybody," Sierra screamed, gesturing with wildly frantic hand gestures. "But in private, you're a complete mess." With her face tensing, Yandy murmured, "Say whatever you want about me, but don't mention my family name." In a sharp yet low voice, "You don't know what you're talking about. And you don't know how much pressure I deal with every day." When family was mentioned, the atmosphere shifted even further. Mendeecees' name was spoken indirectly, and suddenly pride, respect, and reputation were at risk, rather than just friendship or loyalty. The producers leaned in and captured every detail with their cameras, hoping to create the kind of dramatic moment that would garner headlines. And the atmosphere in the room was later described as exhilarating, so the air itself were about to burst. Feeling stuck, Sierra took a step farther. "Maybe if your man really respected you, he wouldn't be talking to other women," she remarked, coming near, almost whispering. Yandy's body clenched as she stood up, her face flushed with rage, and she yelled, "What did you just say to me?" One sentence seemed to set off an uncontrollable chain reaction. There was anarchy. The cast members' attempts to intervene were drowned out by the two women's yelling over one another. Words like lies, fake, and betrayal were echoing through the room. Once the months-long animosity eventually boiled over, everyone found themselves in the crossfire. Sierra never stopped criticizing Yandy, saying that she was hiding a bad reality behind a perfect front. She went on, "If you want to act like everything in your world is perfect, but we all know the truth." Yandy, who was visibly shaking, responded, with her own allegations painting Sierra as jealous and attention-seeking. Her voice was sharp enough to cut over the surrounding noise. Then came the decisive moment. When Yandy attempted to escape, Sierra's rage spilled into action. And she blocked her route. Sierra wrapped her palm in Yandy's wig and pulled her back as she stretched out in a single move as the audience let out gasps and moans. The shocking scene was caught on camera as security raced to halt the cast members who were rushing forward to tear them apart. It was sloppy, ill-prepared, and unrefined. It was a complete disaster. Cries of "stop it" echoed, drinks fell, and chairs scratched the floor as the two women fought. Security tried to disperse them, but Sierra's grip held. And Yandy's voice could be heard yelling, "Get her off me! She's lost her mind." Insiders claim that what happened during those brief moments will go down as one of the most violent altercations the show has ever seen. Even though the audio had to be edited, just when it seemed like things couldn't get much worse, someone shouted Mendeecees' name from the opposite side of the room. His involvement merely served to fan the flames. Whether it was real or only imagined. "Still struggling to breathe?" Sierra screamed. "That's exactly why you pressed, because you know what I'm saying has some truth to it," Yandy shouted. "Don't you dare bring my husband into this. You don't know the battles I fight every single day to protect my family." Her voice trembling and her face exploding with anger and hurt. The room became silent for a moment as her words lingered in the air, and everyone realized that this was not just a television drama, but something honest, emotional, and about to destroy relationships that had been built over years. While some cast members tried to defuse the situation, others couldn't hide their shock. One was heard murmuring, "Nobody is going to believe what just happened here. This is going to blow up all over social media." Although the damage had already been done and the rumors were becoming out of hand, another contended that the video might never ever appear because it was too violent and unrefined for producers to risk showing it in its entirety. "I'm tired of the fake image," Sierra said in a barely audible but harsh enough voice for people to hear, her chest rising and falling with each breath as Yandy was led out of the room, her wig disheveled and her emotions on full display. The cameras were shaken, but they continued to record, catching every second of the aftermath. This debate had clearly gone too far. After learning about the tragedy, viewers couldn't stop wondering what had happened, and more importantly, what it would mean for the show's central relationships. It was no longer just entertainment. Shame, pure suffering, and charges that went too far to be dismissed as mere reality. TV fiction. The atmosphere in the building was almost unbearable after that dramatic altercation, with the cast members who had just watched the chaos still processing what had transpired in front of them, and other crew members walking around uneasily and whispering to each other. The sound of chairs clattering on the floor and the echo of angry yells could still be heard. This was not just another argument, but the kind of thing that throws a show's whole structure into disarray and left everyone wondering what will happen next. Yandy, who had lost her wig, her pride, and her confidence, looked both angry and heartbroken. As security escorted him away, even in that unfiltered moment, she knew that millions of people would soon be watching and analyzing her suffering. Despite the camera's best efforts to keep back and give her privacy, she tried to keep her head down, but it was clear from the tears that were streaming up her eyes how deeply this episode had hurt her. As her friends tried to console her, Sierra said, "No, I'm not letting her play me like that," and continued to pace back and forth, her chest heaving as if the fire inside her had not yet been extinguished. "She wants to seem as though she's perfect. But everyone must know the truth." Her voice was sharp, and every syllable was filled with rage. The fact she was alluding to was the main subject of speculation, and fans had already started sharing theories on social media, with some claiming that Yandy had finally been discovered. manipulating people and others, claiming that Sierra had gone too far in dragging her wig. The sudden mention of Mendeecees during the confrontation, however, was what really got people talking. The situation was so intense that hashtags began trending. An insider leaked video of the incident went viral. The fact that his mention could elicit such rage from Yandy and such bold accusations from Sierra, some believe the tension may be grounded in truth, while others wrote it off as paranoia. In the hours after the brawl, cast members gathered in various locations, each trying to make sense of what they had witnessed. Others quietly admitted that Sierra might have just voiced what people had been whispering behind closed doors for months, while others leaned toward Yandy, saying that she had been humiliated in a way that no one should ever have to experience after being pushed too far. Sierra simply expressed out loud what many people had been thinking when one cast member was heard saying, "I just feel like she always protects him, even when she doesn't need to." Yandy, still shaking, sat down with a close friend in a quiet room. But the remark only fueled the fires, suggesting that the dispute was not just between the two ladies, but perhaps about Yandy and her marriage as a whole. She just humiliated me in that way, and I'd been trying to maintain my composure and be strong for my family. Her voice was trembling as she whispered, "I can't believe she did that." Yandy's anger persisted even after her friend tried to comfort her, saying she believes this to be a game. "But this is my marriage, my family, and my life. That's not something I play around with." Meanwhile, Sierra was venting to anyone who would listen. She spoke indignantly and frustratedly at the same time. She was adamant, saying everyone wants to act like she's so innocent. "But I know things people don't." No, she is not the perfect wife or friend, and if she wants to keep coming for me, I won't hold back any longer. Others around Sierra exchanged nervous looks, worried that she would divulge more secrets than she should. The situation was made worse. By the way, supporters were reacting on social media, where recordings of the dispute quickly went viral, and people posted things like, "This fight is about to change everything," and "Sierra really dragged Yandy." The disagreement had swept over the internet and was no longer merely a quarrel, with some condemning Yandy of spending too much time hiding behind her image and others criticizing Sierra for going too far. Mendeecees, whose name kept cropping up in conversations despite the fact that he had not been present when the brawl began, was suddenly dragged into the tempest. Fans speculated over what Sierra's comments might mean. Some suggested that there might have been conversations between the two that Yandy didn't approve of, while others argued that his intervention was just a ruse to push Yandy over the brink. At any rate, his silence just fueled the gossip. Insiders said the event left producers both thrilled and horrified. They knew that the video was very popular, but they were worried that the battle would be too emotional, too violent, and too personal to even air without serious consequences. The tension continued in the days that followed, but they could not dispute that the chaos in the situation was exactly what made reality TV so appealing. Instead, it seemed to catch on like wildfire, and supporters began searching through previous interviews, social media posts, and any other evidence that would connect Mendeecees and Sierra to bolster the accusations. In spite of everything that was happening, both women held on to their positions, and every interaction that had previously gone unnoticed, every smile in a photo, every comment under a post was now being scrutinized and examined as potential evidence. According to a friend, Yandy said, "I don't care what people think they saw or heard." She emphasized that her relationship with Mendeecees was solid and that she would not let anyone throw her marriage into dishonor. "My partner and I have gone through worse, and we won't allow this to affect us." But the grief was still there, behind closed doors, the kind of suffering that was hard to ignore. But Sierra appears ready to take charge. She hinted to everyone around her that she had more to say and more to reveal, and that she wouldn't hesitate to make everything public if Yandy persisted. Her confidence just fueled speculation that maybe she did possess something material, something that could totally turn the story on its head. The cast grew increasingly divided, with some openly siding with one side and others staying quiet but clearly torn between loyalty and the truth. Murmurs flooded the air during filming, and the atmosphere got so tense that producers struggled to keep things under control. It felt like a ticking time bomb was going to go off when the two women were in the same room, and everything culminated as the repercussions of the devastating conflict reached an unthinkable height. Although the production team thought they had seen it all before, the scenario between Ciara and Yandy nevertheless shocked even the most experienced employees. By now, everyone knew that the fight would not be contained within closed doors. Leaks were spreading faster than wildfire, and the story had become bigger than the concert itself. More than just a conflict between two women was the subject of online conversations. They also examined the dangers of secrets, the fragility of friendships, and the delicate intersection of private and public life. The scenario was made more intense by the responses of the other members of the ensemble. A few of members were openly avoiding both ladies out of fear of getting caught in the crossfire. Others were silently thrilled, discussing how this drama would make them pay more attention and spend more time in front of the screen. One insider, evidently unable to control their excitement, said this is the kind of thing that takes the whole show viral. But not everyone thought well of it. The swift disintegration of Yandy and Ciara's bond was devastating to everyone. Who knew them? Yandy, still reeling from the humiliation, had shunned most social events. She only surrounded herself with those she could really trust, and preferred to keep her social circles small. Even her relatives and close friends, though, were concerned. One of her closest confidants stated, "Listen, I know this hurt you, but you can't let her destroy your peace," and pulled her away. "If you let this get to you, she wins." Yandy nodded, but her gaze sent a different meaning. The mention of Mendeecees' name during the altercation had broken her, and she was seriously hurt. In contrast, Ciara was everything but tranquil. Now that she was aware that everyone was observing her, she capitalized on it. During a live social media session, she hinted that the problem was more complex than people realized. "But believe me, I had a purpose," she said in a combative tone, adding, "People think I just snapped out of nowhere." After her comments sent thousands of followers into a frenzy, they demanded that she disclose the facts, saying, "Unless I'm pushed to the limit, I'm not the kind to just throw hands." Was she bluffing? Or was she using the drama to improve her own appearance on the show? Or was there anything she knew about Mendeecees and Yandy that wasn't yet public? This uncertainty kept fans and the creators glued to every post, update, and behind-the-scenes gossip. They were quite fortunate. The altercation turned into free publicity, which caused interest in the season to soar. The real turning point, however, came when Mendeecees himself stood up. Although they were walking carefully because they understood that if they handled the situation badly, it could have disastrous implications. People constantly try to twist things. "I'm not sure what's being stated out there," he said in a casual encounter that quickly went viral on social media after days of silence. "I am aware of my position and who I stand with." His words were vague, but the time was important. Supporters immediately connected them to the ongoing competition, interpreting it as an effort to stop the rumors. However, his comments did little to resolve the situation. Rather, it stoked the flames, assuming that his uncertainty suggested he was hiding something. People began scrutinizing every word he said. Why didn't he just deny it? Why is it left so open-ended? Fans asked. Both women were drawn deeper into the whirlpool once more as the rumors circulated. Yandy obviously lost it when he heard his comment. Why must he always sound so ambiguous? He has no idea how hard I'm fighting for our family's reputation, she said to a close friend. Now people would think that what she said is true. Her voice broke as she wiped away her tears. exhaustion and frustration blending together. It wasn't only about the war anymore, as she had always taken pride in protecting her marriage and her family's name. But Sierra smiled when she heard his words. He didn't even turn it off, you see. According to reports, a buddy overheard her remark. Maybe I'm not so crazy after all. Her confidence only served to bolster the narrative and led fans to suspect that more was happening. Tension behind the scenes peaked during the next filming session. As the rumors grew louder and the gap between each woman's fan base grew more ferocious by the day, the tension in the room increased as soon as Yandy entered. But the producers decided against their better judgment to put Sierra and Yandy in the same room again in the hopes that the conflict would provide more unfiltered material. At first, Yandy sat across the room with her arms folded across her chest, trying to keep her composure as the cast members stared at each other anxiously, bracing for the storm that was about to hit. "Are you going to pretend that I'm the only one with skeletons?" Sierra asked quickly. Her voice was sarcastic as she asked, "Everyone has their breaking point, even if you think you are immune. Yandy's gaze sharpened as her patience waned. "You have no idea what you're talking about," she screamed. "You have no idea how much I struggle every day to maintain my family's unity?" The room fell silent as everyone waited to see what would happen. Sierra leaned forward, her expression unflinching. "Maybe you should think about the people closest to you, since if your relationship was really as stable as you say, this wouldn't even be a topic of conversation. You don't get to talk about my husband. You don't get to question my marriage." She screamed, her face twisted in anger and her voice breaking as the words hung in the air like a ticking time bomb. "You don't know how much I've given up and suffered for this family." She stood up, her voice growing louder with every word. And again, it seemed like catastrophe was only a few seconds away. The actors jumped in a last-ditch effort to keep the two women apart. But the damage was already done. Even without another physical altercation, the story had changed, and the emotional scars were deep. Outside observers saw not just a fight between two women, but a failing marriage. A storm of secrets that threatened to destroy everything in its path. And a deteriorating relationship. As the evening wore on, the producers realized that this was no longer just a story element. It was intimate, raw, and dangerously close to ruining all these people had fought so hard to achieve. It had grown bigger than the cameras and the performance itself. The stress reached a boiling point as everyone recognized that the war was only beginning and not yet over. Everyone was now forced to take sides in what began as a heated argument that turned into a full-fledged caste war. And the entire Love and Hip Hop crew was entangled in a web of rumors, affiliations, and mounting tension as the chaos from the violent altercation between Yandy and Sierra spilled into the days that followed. The morning following the battle. Social media was already awash with blurry recordings, real-time reactions, and endless speculations. And both women continued to make charges that caused conflict among producers, cast members, and even fans, while some fans backed Sierra, saying she was simply tired of being treated like she was beneath Yandy. Others complimented Yandy for her refusal to back down, saying she had endured too much abuse for too long. Behind the scenes, the producers were in a panic as every gossip blog was flaming with their thoughts, and hashtags like #TeamMyYandy and #TeamSierra began to erupt, adding gasoline to the flame that the heated altercation had escalated to the point that private rooms were being used for meetings. Lawyers were mentioned and voices were raised. Contracts were at risk. And executives were debating whether suspending or even firing staff would be the only way to handle the impact, according to one insider. But these reports made their way back to the cast, escalating rather than reducing the strain, still enraged. Sierra reportedly told close friends that she would not hesitate to tell them all the truth she knew about Yandy. That she wasn't as perfect as she claimed to be. And that if the network protected her, she would make sure the truth was known. She even hinted at possessing receipts that may drastically alter the course of events during an Instagram Live. which infuriated fans who started to speculate about what kind of dirt Ciara might have concealed. Yandy, meanwhile, was not giving up either, telling her loved ones that she was not afraid of Ciara's threats in his heart. Yandy was nervous, but she believed Ciara was bluffing her by using the word receipts. Producers deliberately kept the two women apart during filming because she knew that impression was important in reality TV and that her reputation may be damaged if even half of Ciara's recommendations were made public, even in separate rooms, despite situations carefully staged to prevent another physical confrontation. Tension was in the air like smoke before a fire. The cast would talk in whispers, aware that every careless comment may trigger another explosion. And then the moment came. At a well-known industry event, Ciara showed up out of the blue during a group scene. Yandy was talking to Erica when she recognized her. And the cameras were already running. The air became icy, and many instinctively pulled out their phones, sensing that something important was about to happen. Even security, who had been pre-briefed, was caught off guard by what happened. Ciara rushed directly at Yandy, ignoring the producers who were frantically waving behind the cameras. She wanted an apology there. In front of everyone, her voice rocked the room as she accused Yandy of trying to sabotage her chances on the show. Instead of seeming weak, Yandy got to his feet. She calmly told Ciara that she owed her nothing, and that instead of using drama to get her respect, she should earn it. The words hit Ciara like glass, shattering her. The two women pushed at each other again. Glasses broke, chairs yelled, and people ran everywhere as the fight grew more intense. Security intervened and fought to keep them apart, as they tugged hair, scratched their nails, and yelled insults at the top of their voices. Erica and Bambi tried to keep them apart, but they were drawn into the chaos themselves. But this time, the producers didn't intervene to stop the cameras. They let the footage show because they knew it would be the most talked about moment of the season. High-quality recordings of every word. Shove and scream were ready to be converted into a gold grade. Both women were brought out separately after the altercation was broken up. Yandy was seen walking outside, agitated and scared, while Ciara was being held in a separate room, still screaming that she wasn't done, as the event itself was ruined. Attendees fled and cast members were frightened. Later that night, the internet blew up again. Video footage started to spread like wildfire almost soon after the conflict. As hashtags evolved, the fan base grew even more polarized. Some admirers were calling for Ciara's termination, claiming that she had already crossed the line twice. Other people argued that Yandy, who hid behind her polished demeanor and manipulated buttons, was the reason Ciara lost it. Within a few hours, media outlets began to cover the incident. Adjectives like explosive, violent, and unprecedented were used everywhere, and the clash was featured prominently in tabloid headlines. The cast's reputations were on the line, and the network was under extreme pressure to take action. Backstage, producers engaged in crisis negotiations that lasted till the next morning, instead of focusing only on Yandy and Ciara. The inquiry now asked about the entire brand. Had things finally reached a breaking point? Or could love and hip-hop withstand this level of upheaval? The major twist, though, came when there were rumors that the network would really profit from the drama. Insiders claimed that officials were discussing whether to make the conflict the main focus of an entire spin-off, presenting it as one of the most important rivalries in the brand's history. One thing was clear despite the supporters' differences. Nobody could leave Yandy and Ciara, were both sternly told to stop talking until further notice by the end of the week. Their reputations were on the line, their contracts were being evaluated, and the show's future was uncertain, but neither of them seemed to be compromising. When Ciara spoke vaguely on social media about bombshells she was ready to release, Yandy quietly responded that she was built to last and never scared of the truth. The fight became vicious, public, and unstoppable once the battle lines were drawn. It was no longer just a personal one. The only question that kept running through everyone's mind was who would hit first. Even though fans knew that this was far from over, family, it feels like this is only the beginning. What just happened between Ciara and Yandy is completely explosive. From the irate conversations to the shocking physical altercation and even the incapacity of the security forces too. Separate them, the drama is intensifying to a whole new level. But now the question is, where does this leave them both? Will this tense relationship ever be able to be repaired? Or has the damage been done too much already? We've all seen friendships fall apart on reality TV. But this fight feels different because it's candid, personal, and unvarnished. Opinions among fans are divided. Some applaud Yandy, claiming she's finally standing up for herself, while others favor Ciara, claiming she just couldn't bear the constant criticism any longer. Regardless of your position, you cannot deny that this incident has changed the show's overall tone. But I'd want to hear what you think. Do you believe this fight was real, or did the producers fake it to get such high ratings? Is there a possibility that Ciara and Yandy may reconcile, or do you believe their conflict will simply worsen? Please leave your opinions in the space provided for comments below. I'd like to hear all of your viewpoints. If you don't want to miss the next turn in this wild narrative, you should also hit the like button. Subscribe to the channel and turn on all notifications. I promise you, there will be more chaos soon. The drama is just getting started, as you know, and we shall be here to tell you all about it.